What is fate? Is it a pre-written path or the result of our instantaneous choices? And what about the fate of a hero? When they put on their capes and masks, what do they sign up for? For victory or for an endless sacrifice? Hello everyone, and welcome to Heroes' Fate. On this channel, we will explore stories where the heroes you know stray onto paths you've never seen, where they pay the ultimate price for their victories and question what fate truly means for them. Today, we begin with a hero who carries the weight of not just a city on his shoulders, but also the burden of, with great power comes great responsibility, Spider-Man. But what if his greatest enemy wasn't someone he could dodge punches from, but an idea that seeped into the deepest parts of his mind and soul? This is the story of how Spider-Man lost not his most precious thing, his identity, but his purpose. A shadow glided through the concrete canyons of New York. His red and blue suit flashed for a moment under the city's neon lights before blending back into the darkness. It was an ordinary night for Spider-Man. He had stopped a mugger in an alley, saved a small cat from a burning building, and perched atop the Empire State Building to listen to the city's pulse one last time before heading back to Queens. Behind the mask, Peter Parker smiled, tired but satisfied. This exhausting double life was worth the unique peace that came from knowing he was keeping people safe. However, he didn't know that in another corner of the city, a far more dangerous hunter was weaving his own web in the shadows. This predator fought not with brute force, but with intellect. Not with muscle, but with manipulation. This was Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio. Humiliated by Spider-Man time and again, Beck now understood that the way to defeat him was not through a physical fight. Killing Spider-Man would only make him a legend. The only way to destroy him was to steal everything he represented. His plan went into motion weeks later, in the city's largest square. Mysterio's helmeted silhouette suddenly appeared on the giant screens, cutting off all broadcasts to address New York. But this wasn't a threat, it was a revelation. People of New York, have you ever wondered who this masked hero who has protected you for years really is? Boomed Beck's mechanical voice. Peter's heart felt like it would stop. This was it, the moment it all ended. But the face that appeared on the screens was not Peter Parker's. It was Leo Clemenson, an incredibly charismatic, sharp-jawed, unknown actor smiling confidently at the cameras. With fake evidence, deep fake videos, and masterfully edited testimonies, Mysterio convinced the entire city that this man was Spider-Man. According to Mysterio's story, Leo had taken on this role, hiding his identity because the city needed hope. Peter stood frozen in front of the small television in his apartment. What was this? A deception, but why? At first, he felt a sense of relief. His identity was safe. But in the following days, that relief slowly gave way to an ice-cold horror. New York embraced its new hero. Leo Clemenson instantly became the city's darling. He appeared on daytime talk shows, took pictures with fans, and raised money for foundations established in Spider-Man's name. People no longer cheered for Spider-Man when they saw him, they cheered for Leo. The nightmare for Peter began then. One night, he saved a family from a bus engulfed in flames. When he brought them to safety, he saw the gratitude in the woman's eyes. But she said, "Thank you. I'll be sure to tell Leo how brave he was."
His fists clenched. Another day, he stopped one of Dr. Octopus's mechanical arms with his webs just as it was about to grab a child. The next day's newspaper headline read, "Spider-Man, Leo Clemenson, saves the day again. Our hero never stops." Peter Parker had become a ghost in his own life. He bore all the burdens of being Spider-Man, the injuries, the sleepless nights, the danger. But all the fame, glory, and appreciation went to an imposter who had stolen his identity. The responsibility was his, but his purpose had been stolen. He was no longer your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He was an unnamed, unmentioned stunt double. MJ was the only one who noticed his turmoil. "Peter," she said one evening, taking his wary face in her hands, "you can't let this man take your place. We have to tell the truth." "How, MJ?" Peter replied helplessly. "How can I prove it's me? Everyone will think I'm a liar. an imitator jealous of a fraud's fame. That's exactly what Mysterio wants, to turn me into a joke. Mysterio's final move was the deadliest. Using his puppet, Leo, he introduced a new security network developed by Oscorp that would provide the city with complete surveillance. This system was, in reality, a hidden weapon that would allow Mysterio to control the entire city. And the public, because their hero, Leo Clemenson, assured them it was safe, was ready to accept the system with applause. Peter was out of options. This was no longer just about his identity. The freedom of the entire city was now at stake. That night, he confronted the fake Spider-Man, Leo Clemenson, and the shadow behind him, Mysterio, atop the Oscorp tower where the system was to be activated. "Why did you do all this, Beck?" Peter shouted at the duo standing across from him on the glass platform. Mysterio removed his helmet. A twisted smile was on his face. "Because you don't get it, Parker. People don't need a hero. They need an idol, a perfect face they can control, they can love. You behind the mask are just a nobody. I gave them that face. And now that face will give me the city." Their battle was a storm of illusions. Mysterio used Peter's greatest fears against him, the ghosts of Uncle Ben, of Gwen Stacy. But Peter was no longer fighting his fears. He was fighting meaninglessness. Finally, when he broke through all the illusions and caught Beck, the people of New York were watching everything from the giant screens below. Peter brought Mysterio before the cameras. This was the moment he had been waiting for. He could take off his mask and say, "I am the real hero." But in that instant, he saw the disappointment on the faces of the crowd gathered below. The shock of learning their idol was a lie. If he said he was the real Spider-Man, it would only increase the chaos. One hero would simply replace another. But what if the very idea of Spider-Man had been poisoned? He took a deep breath and made the choice that defined his destiny. He did not remove his mask. Instead, he grabbed Mysterio by the throat and spoke to the cameras. His voice came out, muffled but determined from under the mask. "This man, Quentin Beck, and his puppet, they created Spider-Man. It was a hoax from the beginning. New York never had a Spider-Man. He was just an illusion this man used to take over the city." Mysterio's eyes widened in astonishment. What was Peter doing? At that moment, Peter Parker sacrificed not only Leo Clemenson, but also himself. He stabbed his own legend, his own legacy for the safety of the city. He buried Spider-Man in history not as a hero, but as a lie. After that day, Spider-Man was never seen in New York again. The public lived with the shame of being deceived. Their faith in heroes was shattered. But the city was still safe. At night, criminals in back alleys continued to be stopped by a web they couldn't understand. People were mysteriously rescued from fires. But no one said thank you, because there was no hero to thank. Peter Parker had found his destiny. He was no longer a symbol, not an applauded savior. He was an anonymous protector whose existence no one knew. The burden was still his, the responsibility was still his, but his identity and purpose now belonged only to him. He was condemned to live as an anonymous whisper inside the shadow web, protecting his city all alone. What makes a hero a hero? The applause they receive? The newspaper headlines? Or is it continuing to do the right thing even when no one is watching, when no one will ever know? Peter Parker, by killing Spider-Man, perhaps performed his most heroic act. He saved his city from believing in a lie, but the cost was erasing his existence. His fate was not to be a legend, but to be a ghost. So what do you think? Is a hero's true destiny to be remembered or to do their duty at the cost of being forgotten? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. Thank you for watching Hero's Fate. See you in another hero's unexpected journey. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.